The silent jaunty blackness of space was endless, cold and quiet, yet in that endless dark, something waited. It was not a planet, not an asteroid, but a ship. A ship so massive that even the biggest human dreadnought looked small beside it. The vessel floated near a dead star, silent and forgotten, its dark hull stretched for kilometers, covered in scars and strange glowing lines that pulsed faintly like veins for centuries. The silent giant, as it was later called, had drifted. Alone, no one had dared approach until now. Captain Elena Ward stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Reach, staring at the massive structure through the viewport. Her crew whispered behind her, unable to believe what they were seeing. "It's huge," one of them breathed. "That's not a ship, it's a city," another added. "No human fleet has ever built anything like this, not even close." Elena kept her voice calm, but her eyes stayed fixed on the giant vessel. "Prepare the boarding team, we're going in." The boarding shuttle flew silently across the void. The closer they came, the larger the alien ship became. Its hull was covered in strange carvings, symbols etched deep into the metal. Some of the marks glowed faintly as though the ship itself was alive. When the shuttle docked at a small opening, the airlock hissed. The team stepped inside, lights flickering across their helmets. The interior was vast and empty, with ceilings so high that their beams barely touched them. The walls were made of smooth black metal, yet warm to the touch. Strange symbols lined the corridors, glowing as the humans passed. Dr. Kian, the team scientist, whispered in awe, "It's reacting to us. The ship knows we're here." Aaron, the security chief, gripped his rifle tighter. "Or it's warning us to leave." They moved deeper into the ship, their footsteps echoing through the silence. The corridors twisted like a maze, leading them to a massive chamber at the ship's heart. The chamber was like nothing they had ever seen. A huge sphere floated in the center, glowing faintly with blue light. Cables and crystal-like structures extended from it, reaching into the walls and ceiling. The air vibrated with low hums, as though the sphere was breathing. "This must be the core," Kian whispered, his eyes wide. "It's still alive after all this time." Elena stepped forward, her voice steady. "Record everything. This is history." As she approached the sphere, the glow brightened, the humming grew louder, filling the chamber with a strange energy that made their skin crawl. Suddenly, the lights of the chamber flickered, the walls glowed brighter, symbols lit up one by one, racing across the room until the entire chamber was alive with light. The crew froze, weapons raised, hearts pounding. Aaron shouted, "Captain, we should pull back. It's waking up." But Elena stood her ground, staring at the glowing core. Something about it felt familiar. Then it happened. A deep voice echoed through the chamber, not mechanical, not cold, but alive. It spoke in a language none of their translators could process. The sound was ancient, powerful, filled with weight. The crew covered their ears, but the captain did not. To her, the voice was different. It was clear, as if it spoke directly into her mind. "Who calls me?" Her breath caught. She looked around, but no one else reacted. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Aaron frowned. "Hear what, Captain?" "All I heard was noise." Elena's heartbeat quickened. She took a step closer to the sphere. The glow pulsed in rhythm with her voice. She whispered, I'm Captain Elena Ward of Earth." The chamber went silent, then the voice returned, even stronger this time. "Earth's humanity at last." Elena stumbled back, eyes wide. "It understands me," she whispered. Kian's eyes widened. "Wait, what?" "It spoke to you." "How?" Before Elena could answer, the walls of the chamber shifted. A massive hologram appeared, showing a galaxy filled with stars. Fleets of alien ships clashed in enormous battles, explosions tearing through the void. The crew gasped. "It's showing us a war," Kian whispered, "an ancient war." The hologram ended with a single image, the silent giant, surrounded by thousands of burning enemy ships, alone but victorious. Then the voice returned, calm but heavy. "With power, I have waited for the voice that would awaken me, the voice of the heirs." The others failed. "They feared me, but you are human." Elena's hands trembled, her crew stared at her, confused and terrified. "Why only me?" she asked quietly. The voice replied, "Because only you can command me, only you can lead me. The makers are gone, but you remain. Their blood, their echo, lives in you." The chamber pulsed with blinding light. The entire ship shuddered as though it had taken its first breath in thousands of years. The silent giant was no longer silent. Aaron stepped forward, his rifle still in his hands. "Captain, this thing, it's alive and it's listening to you. What if it's dangerous?" Elena's eyes stayed fixed on the glowing sphere. Her heart pounded with fear and with something else, a strange pull, as if destiny itself had placed her here. The voice whispered one last time, soft but certain, "The war is not over. They will come, and when they do, you must be ready." The chamber went dark, leaving only the captain's heavy breathing echoing in the silence. And for the first time, Elena understood. The silent giant had awoken, and it had chosen her. Asterisk. The human voiced crew returned to The shuttle in silence, their helmets carried heavy breaths and their eyes showed the same fear. All of them had felt the energy, the hum, the strange pulse of the ship. But only one had heard the words. Captain Elena Ward sat alone in the shuttle's command seat, staring through the small window at the massive alien ship. Its hull glowed faintly now. Alive with patterns of light that had been dark for thousands of years, it had awakened and it had spoken to her alone. On the horizon's reach, tension filled the air. The crew gathered in the briefing room, waiting for answers. Dr. Kian slammed his datapad onto the table. This is impossible. The ship ignored all our signals, all our tech, but the moment you spoke, it answered. Aaron, the security chief, leaned forward. Or it manipulated you, Captain. Maybe it used your voice as a key, maybe it's using you. Elena's hands tightened on the edge of the table. It wasn't manipulation, it knew me, or it knew something about humanity. The room went quiet. The glow of the alien ship still visible through the windows gave every word more weight. Kian whispered, almost to himself, why a human voice? Out of all the species in the galaxy, why us? Later, Elena returned to the alien ship with a smaller team. This time, they carried recorders, translators, and scanners, determined to learn more. The chamber was waiting, the great sphere glowing brighter the moment she entered. The hum rose again, vibrating through their bones. Elena stepped closer, her voice steady but curious. Can you hear me? The sphere pulsed once, then the voice filled the chamber. Yes, I hear you. The heirs of the Makers have come. At last, her crew stiffened. But none reacted as if they understood the words. To them, it was still just noise. Elena's breath caught. What do you want from us? The voice replied, not what I want, but what you are. You are the voice that commands, the key that awakens. The Makers made me to serve their heirs. Their voice is your voice. Elena's throat went dry. The Makers, who were they? The sphere glowed brighter. Images filled the chamber, projections of tall, luminous beings. Their faces hidden behind masks of light. They built great cities, fleets, and weapons beyond comprehension. The crew watched in awe, unable to understand the words but grasping the scale of it. Then came war. Dark ships made of bone and fire. Twisted shapes tearing across the stars. The Makers fought them with ships like the silent giant, but one by one, the Makers disappeared until none remained. Elena whispered. And now? Why respond only to us? The answer came, calm but heavy, because you are like them. Because you are their echo. The others tried machines, synthetics, false voices, but none could command me. Only you. Elena turned back to her crew, but they only stared at her with wide, unsettled eyes. Aaron broke the silence. Captain, forgive me, but this thing is dangerous. You're the only one who hears it. How do we even know it's telling the truth? Kian shook his head. It showed us history, proof of the Makers. This ship isn't lying, Aaron. This is the greatest discovery in human history. But Aaron's voice stayed hard. Or the greatest trap. Elena ignored their argument, turning back to the glowing sphere. Her voice was low. If I am your heir, if humanity is your heir, then what is our purpose? The voice answered, to finish what the Makers began, to lead me once more. For the enemy will return. They have always waited, and they will not allow my awakening to go unanswered. The chamber trembled slightly, and suddenly the ship's systems roared to life. Lights raced across the walls. Ancient engines thrummed deep below. Her crew stumbled as the floor vibrated. Kian shouted, it's activating. The whole ship is powering up. Elena steadied herself. Stand firm. It's responding to me. The voice spoke again, almost with urgency. Now, do you accept? Will you be my command? Will humanity take the place of the Makers? The question hung in the air, heavy as stone. Outside, the horizon's reach sent urgent messages. Captain, strange energy spikes are coming from the alien ship. Systems are flaring across every deck. From orbit, other human ships watched in fear as the silent giant lit up, its hull glowing brighter, patterns racing like fire across the metal inside. Elena clenched her fists. Her mind screamed with doubt, but her heart whispered with something else. Destiny. She took a step forward, her voice firm. Yes, I accept. If this ship is ours, then it will fight with us. The sphere pulsed, the chamber exploding with blinding light. The voice thundered, not just in her head but through the entire ship. Then awaken me fully, heir of humanity. Suddenly, vast alien consoles appeared around them, glowing with symbols and controls that shifted to match her language. The crew gasped as the displays translated before their eyes. Kian whispered, it's rewriting itself for us. It's teaching us. Aaron shook his head in disbelief. No, it's bending to her, not us her. Elena placed her hand on the console, and at her touch, the ship responded. Entire sections came alive, halls illuminated, and weapons systems hummed with energy. Then, without warning, an alarm echoed through the chamber, a sharp, alien sound that made their bones ache. The voice spoke again, this time with warning. They come. The enemy has seen my awakening. They move even now. Elena's heart dropped. The enemy. You mean the ones who destroyed the Makers? Yes, the ship answered. They will not allow you to live. Prepare yourself. The chamber went still and the glow dimmed, leaving only Elena's pale face in the flickering light. Her crew looked to her for answers, fear burning in their eyes. Aaron finally spoke, his voice low. Captain, what have you done? Elena didn't answer. Her eyes stayed fixed on the glowing sphere. Her voice was barely a whisper. I think I just declared humanity's place in a war older than time itself. Asterisk secrets of the Macursed alien ship drifted in silence, but it no longer felt dead. Lights pulsed across its hull, systems hummed awake, and deep inside, the chamber glowed. Faintly around Elena and her crew, no one spoke at first. The air was heavy with fear and wonder. Each breath sounded too loud in the vast room. Finally, Dr. Kian broke the silence. His voice was unsteady. Captain, this is beyond anything we imagined. This ship isn't just old, it remembers. It's been waiting for you. Elena didn't look at him. Her eyes were fixed on the glowing sphere. It said humanity is the heir of the Makers, that we are their echo. Aaron shook his head sharply. No, Captain, that thing chose you, not humanity. We can't trust its words, not yet. But Elena felt something deeper, a connection. The ship's voice had spoken to her in a way that was more than sound. It was like an echo of memory in her own bones. The sphere glowed brighter. And the voice returned, calm but firm. You ask who the Makers were. You ask what they left behind. Then I shall show you. The floor trembled. And once again images filled the air, holograms so real they almost breathed. The crew gasped. For before them appeared the Makers in full, tall beings of light and flesh. Their bodies covered in flowing armor of metal and crystal, their faces hidden behind bright masks. But their movements graceful, they stood upon great cities suspended above oceans of stars. They commanded fleets that could blot out the heavens. Their knowledge bent space and energy to their will. Elena whispered, almost to herself. They were gods. But the ship corrected her, not gods, creators, builders, warriors, they were mortal. But they touched eternity through their craft, and you, humanity, carry their spark. The images shifted, now showing the darkness that followed. Ships made of bone and fire appeared, twisting through the void, the enemy. Their forms were jagged and unnatural, like nightmares given flesh. They tore through Maker fleets. Whole planets consumed in fire. Elena's crew stared in horror as the hologram showed the destruction, billions dying in moments. The Makers fought with brilliance, but they fell one by one, and then the last stand. The silent giant, the ship they now stood within, was shown. Among others, forming a shield around something hidden. The voice spoke. The Makers left their works behind, hidden, waiting for those who would awaken them, for the enemy was never destroyed, only delayed. They sleep in the shadows of the galaxy, and they will rise again. Kian clutched his datapad, his hands shaking. Captain, do you hear what this means? Humanity isn't just some accident of evolution. We might be the heirs of the Makers. Maybe even their descendants, Aaron growled. Or maybe this ship is lying to her, telling HFY Stories to use us as weapons. What if it's their trap? Elena turned to him, her voice sharp. Then why does it only respond to me? Why does it call humanity its heirs? If it wanted to use anyone, it could have chosen others long ago, but it waited. Aaron, it waited for us. Aaron didn't answer. His jaw tightened, but his eyes betrayed doubt. The ship's voice returned, this time quieter. Almost like a whisper, the Makers left more than ships, they left knowledge. Hidden across the stars, beacons locked to your voice, they are waiting. As I was, you must find them, awaken them, before the enemy comes in full. Elena felt her chest tighten. How much time do we have? The chamber darkened, and then a new image appeared. It was not of the past, but the present. A sector of the galaxy, distant but real, glowed with faint light. At its edge moved shadows. Great fleets twisting like worms in the dark. The voice spoke with weight. They stir already. They feel my awakening. Their scouts move. Their eyes turn toward you. They will not wait long. The chamber shook as the image faded. Back on the horizon's reach, alarms echoed across the bridge. Sensors picked up faint signals, unknown ships moving on the edge of detection. They weren't human. They weren't friendly. The crew watching from orbit panicked. Messages flooded to Elena's team. Captain, something's out there. Unknown contacts approaching fast. Elena's heart pounded. She looked at the sphere. Can this ship fight? The voice answered without hesitation. Yes, but I am not yet complete. My full power is locked. Hidden until the air claims the other beacons, yet even in this state, I am not helpless. At that moment, deep within the silent giant, ancient weapons stirred. Massive cannons slid from the hull, glowing with energy that had not burned in thousands of years. The horizon's reach sent another urgent message. Captain, enemy ships inbound. They're not like anything we've seen before. Aaron gripped his weapon. Even though it was useless here, Captain, we have to leave. This ship may be powerful, but we're not ready for a war. But Elena's eyes burned with determination. She felt the hum of the ship like a heartbeat. Beneath her own. No, she said firmly, we don't run, not today. This ship didn't wait for us to run, it waited for us to lead. Her crew stared at her, shocked. Kian whispered, Captain, are you saying you're going to fight them? With this? Elena placed her hand on the glowing console. The ship responded instantly, lights flaring. Engines roaring like thunder. She looked back at them with a fierce smile. No, Kian. I'm saying we're going to fight with her outside. The silent giant stirred, its colossal frame moving for the first time in ages, engines lit, weapons charged. And its hull burned with alien light, and in the shadows of the galaxy, the enemy drew closer. Hungry for the first battle in a war that had never truly ended, Elena stood tall, her voice steady. If we are the heirs of the Makers, then it's time the galaxy remembers why the enemy feared them. The ship's voice rumbled in agreement. Then let us show them, heir of humanity. And for the first time in thousands of years, the silent giant prepared for war. The enemy. A revest silent giant moved with a power that shook Elena's heart. For centuries it had floated dead in the void, but now its engines burned bright, and its weapons glowed like suns waiting to fire. On the bridge of the horizon's reach, panic turned to awe. The human crew watched the alien colossus come alive. Its size dwarfed their ship. Its presence felt less like a machine and more like a living being. Captain, the comm officer called out, unknown ships entering our Sector 30, maybe more. They're fast, they're coordinated, and they're heading straight for us. Elena's voice was calm. Stay behind us, we'll hold the line. The voice of the silent giant echoed through the chamber where she stood. They come as scouts, but their blades are sharp. Error, if they pierce your shield, more will follow. If you fall here, humanity will fall before it can rise. The alien ships appeared from the dark, jagged and twisted. Like shadows given metal and fire, they moved in unnatural ways, bending around each other as if space itself feared their shape. Aaron cursed. Those things don't fly like ships, they crawl. Dr. Kian's face was pale. They're built for war. Captain, look at the energy spikes. Those weapons could cut a city in half. Elena stood firm, her hand pressed against the glowing console. The ship pulsed in answer like it was breathing with her. Then we fight, she said simply. The first enemy ship fired. A beam of red light tore across the void, aimed at the horizon's reach. Before it struck, the silent giant moved. A shield of blue fire flared across its hull. The beam shattered harmlessly, scattering sparks across the stars. The human crew gasped, relief mixed with disbelief. The giant's voice rumbled, you are under my protection, heir. Now see the wrath of the Makers. The alien ship's cannons glowed, and then the silent giant answered. A single blast erupted from its main weapon. The energy beam was so bright that even the stars dimmed before it. It struck the enemy ship directly, and in one heartbeat the vessel was gone, nothing left but drifting ashes. The human crew cheered, but Elena didn't smile. She knew this was only the beginning. More enemy ships broke formation, weaving and darting like predators round prey. They swarmed, firing beams, hurling burning projectiles of twisted matter. The silent giant unleashed its fury. Cannons fired in bursts of light, shields flared, and each strike destroyed another foe. But the enemy was endless. For every ship destroyed, 3 more pressed closer. Inside the chamber, Aaron gripped the railing. Captain, this is madness. We can't win against this many. But Elena's eyes narrowed. Her voice was hard. We're not trying to win today, we're trying to show them we're not prey. The ship's voice agreed. The enemy is testing us. They do not believe the air has risen. They send only fragments of their power. Show them their mistake, and they will retreat for now. Elena pressed harder against the console. Then let's make them remember. The silent giant shifted tactics. Its weapons began to sing in unison, beams crossing like woven fire. Enemy ships were cut apart. In lines, whole groups shattered at once. One of the larger enemy vessels, 3 times the size of the horizon's reach, charged forward, its hull twisted with spikes, its mouth like opening glowing with death. It fired a torrent of red beams that hammered against the giant's shields. The chamber shook. Alarms blared. The crew staggered. Kian shouted, Captain, shields at 30%. Elena's teeth clenched. She refused to let fear show. The ship's voice whispered, I can unleash one of my deeper weapons, but it will drain me. I will sleep again if I use it. Do you wish to see it? Elena froze. The choice weighed heavy. If the ship slept again, they might lose their chance to find the other beacons. Aaron snapped. Captain, do it. Better asleep than dead. But Elena shook her head slowly. No, not yet. We fight with what we have. The silent giant spread its wings of metal. Energy surged through its hull, and then it released a shockwave. A ripple of blue fire spread outward like a tidal wave. The smaller enemy ships were thrown back, torn apart by the force. Their weapons silenced in an instant. Only the large vessel remained. Its mouth glowed brighter, preparing a final strike. Elena's chest pounded. Her hand clenched the console tighter. Now, she whispered. The giant answered. A spear of pure light burst from its core. cutting straight through the enemy's center. For a moment, the massive ship screamed not in sound, but in vibration, a terrible shiver across the void, then it split apart. Breaking into burning fragments, silence returned, only drifting wreckage remained. The enemy fleet was gone, destroyed or fled, the crew of the Horizon's Reach erupted in cheers, voices echoing across the comms. Aaron slumped against the wall, breathing hard. We actually did it, but Elena did not cheer. She felt the weight of the battle heavy in her chest. The ship's voice spoke again, deep and grim. This was only a taste of the enemy. Heirs of the Makers, you stood firm and they now know you live. But they will return, and in greater numbers. If you wish to survive, you must awaken the others. Seek the beacons, gather the lost fleet, for the true war is yet to come. Elena looked around at her crew, her eyes burned with resolve. Then, we'll find them, she said. Every beacon, every ship, every secret the Makers left behind. Humanity won't run, not now, not ever. The giant's lights pulsed as if in approval. And beyond the stars, unseen but watching, the enemy stirred. In the dark, the legacies called wreckage of the enemy ships drifted like shattered bones. Across the silent void, the silent giant loomed above it all, scarred but unbroken. Its ancient lights glowed faintly, pulsing like the slow heartbeat of a titan. On the Horizon's Reach, the crew sat in silence. The battle was over, but the air carried no peace. They all knew what the giant had said. This was only the beginning. Elena stood at the center of the chamber, her hand still pressed against the glowing console. She could feel the ship's pulse beneath her palm, strong and alive, yet weary. The giant's voice rumbled, deep and heavy with warning. The enemy has tested you and found you stronger than expected. They will not make the same mistake again. Their next blow will fall harder, swifter, and without mercy. Aaron leaned forward, his voice sharp. Then we run before they regroup, Captain. Find another system, another hiding place. But Elena shook her head, her eyes never left the shifting stars. No. If we run, we'll only die tired. Humanity's survived by hiding long enough. Now it's time we stand. Dr. Kian spoke softly, almost as if he feared the answer. Captain, the giant said there were other ships like this one. What if they're still out there waiting? The ship's lights flared at the mention and its voice grew louder. The Makers did not build one guardian, they built a fleet, 1,000 titans across the stars. Each one tied to a beacon, hidden deep in forgotten places. They sleep as I once did, waiting for the call. Elena's heart raced. And how do we find them? The giant's reply came slowly, almost like a whisper from the void. The first beacon lies beyond the Veil Nebula, where stars are swallowed by shadows. There, a sister waits, older than me, fiercer than fire. If she awakens, the balance will shift. Aaron frowned. A nebula? That's suicide. Navigation alone could tear us apart. Kian adjusted his glasses nervously. And if the enemy already knows about these beacons, they'll be waiting. Elena turned to them both. Her voice was steady. Then we'll go. Anyway, because if we don't, there won't be anywhere left to hide. She looked back at the giant. But why us? Why humanity? Why did you wake only to my voice? The giant was silent for a moment. Its lights dimmed, then its answer came, low and heavy. Because the Makers chose you. Long before your people walked the stars, the seed was planted in your kind, buried deep, waiting. You are their heirs, and heirs do not run. A hush fell across the chamber, the weight of destiny pressed on every shoulder. Aaron broke it with a shaky laugh. So? We're heirs to gods now, perfect, just perfect. Elena gave him a small smile. But her eyes were firm. No, not gods, just builders who refused to give up, just like us. The ship's lights pulsed brighter. The path is set, but the choice is yours. Heir, will you carry the Maker's flame, or let it die in the dark? Elena straightened, her voice rang with steel. We carry it, whatever it takes. The decision spread through the crew like fire. They had seen the enemy. They had seen the power of the giant, and they understood now there was no going back. To the quiet life of hiding, on the Horizon's Reach, orders echoed, systems repaired, courses plotted, every hand worked with urgency. For they knew they were no longer a wandering crew. They were the first to answer the call, Aaron muttered. As he strapped into his station, first beacon in the Veil Nebula. What's next? A whole army of these things? Kian whispered, almost to himself. If there are 1,000, then maybe, just maybe, we have a chance. Elena stood tall, watching the giant move into formation alongside their small ship. For the first time, she didn't feel like humanity's vessel was tiny. No, not when they carried the promise of a fleet waiting to wake. The stars shifted as the jump drive prepared. The nebula ahead shimmered like a storm of shadows, dangerous and calling. Before the jump, the giant spoke once more, its voice echoing like a vow. Know this, heir, the enemy will hunt you. They will not rest. And when you awaken my sisters, their wrath will shake the heavens. But only if your courage does not falter. Elena closed her eyes. She thought of Earth, of the millions of lives who had no idea what was coming. She thought of the silent war now stirring in the dark. And she thought of the moment she first spoke and the giant answered, her eyes opened. Sharp and bright, we won't falter, the stars bent, the void stretched. And the horizon's reach leapt forward with the silent giant at its side, behind them, the ruins of the enemy fleet drifted, carried by cold currents of space, but further still. In the endless dark, other eyes were watching, the enemy had seen the giant awaken. They had heard humanity's voice and in their councils of shadow. They whispered with fear and fury, the heirs live, and the war begins anew.